Bitcoin has just made history, closing a weekly candle above $100,000. In today's video, we are going over the 4-year cycle, the macro charts, the weekly candle, the short-term price action, and the altcoin season. By the end of today's video, you will have a deep and detailed understanding of what is happening, exactly what to expect, and how to plan for 2025. Let's go ahead and jump on in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. In today's video, we are doing a macro and short-term analysis discussing the 4-year cycle, the macro charts, the weekly top, the short-term expectations moving into 2025 and beyond, as well as the altcoin season. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin, focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. This is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency, with Bitcoin, and the relevant economic news. And if you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, you can join us over in VIP by clicking the pinned comment in the free channel, contacting me, or clicking these 2 links. You'll get access to trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more, including access to all of our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our daily video help and news chat. Check it out. We have over 700 members and have been operating for about 50 months now since the start of 2021. Let's go ahead and jump on in. So as we mentioned, we have a very broad range of topics we're going to be discussing today, but I think one of the most important ones is the 4-year cycle. It's been some time since we've discussed the 4-year cycle, and we're going to be taking a look at what the 4-year cycle suggests in terms of potential top dates, as well as going over how this cycle is tracking along in terms of potential top dates occurring earlier than what the 4-year cycle suggests. We'll also be discussing in massive detail this short-term price action, and as well, coming back to that 2023 fractal, which is playing out absolutely perfectly so far, suggestive of a potential continuation upward for the rest of 2025, before maybe a potential correction on the short term leading into the new year. And of course, we're discussing the altcoin season as we are at 1.13 trillion, retesting the exact prior 2021 high point. Before we get into that, let's dive into the market data. So taking a look at our volume and our liquidations, over the 24-hour period, volume is down 2.18% at 170 billion. Liquidations down, or should I say up, to 200 million, up 19.92%, with 134 million coming from longs and 66 million coming from shorts. Moving over to the DXY, we can see over here on the short term, let's zoom into the daily. The DXY is still tracking along as expected. We had that deviation from the range high play out quite some time ago now. We are expecting a gradual decrease of the DXY moving into the coming months, again with interest rate reductions still being expected. The likely macro expectation is that we eventually see inflation increase again and the dollar drop in value, and the DXY again is basically comparing the US dollar against a basket of other currencies. So generally we will see the DXY pull back when inflation starts to rally up aggressively as a consequence of cheaper debt, more spending in the economy, etc. I can go on for hours about it, but there's really no point. All we need to know is, on a general basis, as a consequence of the mechanisms behind these interest rate reductions, as we can see by this flowchart, and we have other flowcharts up here, such as the interest rate trajectory flowchart and the correlation coefficients between stocks and crypto as a consequence of perceived systematic risk adjustments as a consequence of future potential interest rate reductions, we can see that generally and expectedly, and what we have seen historically, is that as interest rates do begin to reduce over a period of many months, we do see money start to flow into risk assets, and most importantly, risk assets start to increase as the dollar decreases in value. So we do expect the DXY to move toward the downside unless there is an economic shift in what is expected with the interest rate reductions. And while the interest rate reductions are occurring and playing out, there's no reason to be macro bearish on risk assets. So I've kind of held that stance for a very long time now. On the S&P 500, looking good, 6,101 opening price of the week, pushing up higher, looking fantastic. Again, while we remain above 5,700, 5,650, we are going to be bullish. We drop below here, we are going to be bearish. It is simple as that. We are expecting higher above that level. We have been bullish ever since 2023, May 2023. Our target was $6,000. We hit $6,000. We are now playing this level by level. So we do not have price targets at S&P 500. We are simply playing it level by level, moving our invalidations upwards as the price continues to rise. That is it, guys. Let's jump into Bitcoin and the rest of the analysis. Now, before we do, take a minute, take 30 seconds, 15 seconds, click the links down below, BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX, choose one of them, sign up to those links. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% trading fee discounts. Absolutely massive stuff there, guys. Support yourself in your trading career, support me making these videos, support the channel, join those links, sign up, it takes a few moments, and we'll jump back in. I'd like to introduce our partner, BitUnix. BitUnix is a global, non-KYC, no country restriction exchange, making it a perfect exchange to trade on if you're from the USA, from Canada, the Netherlands, or just prefer to trade without KYC. This exchange is a futures and spot exchange with over 200 different trading pairs and some of the lowest fees in the game. If you sign up with my link down below, you'll get access to 15% off your trading fees, as well as an exclusive reward center where you can claim up to a multitude in USDT prizes. So go ahead and sign up with my link down below for 15% off, and I'll see you in there. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump back in, and we are starting on the macro charts, jumping into the short term, finishing up with altcoins in today's video. Taking a look first and foremost, we have got, and by the time this video is out, we've got about 10 minutes remaining until the weekly candle close, and I don't have much to say about the weekly candle close other than the fact that this is a historic event for Bitcoin, as it is the first and highest weekly candle close we've ever seen, and that closing price being over 100,000 US dollars. So a pretty big weekly candle close for Bitcoin and a pretty large moment. But in terms of what we can tell you from this, it doesn't give us any new information than what we have already had from the prior weekly candle closes, which is we are in an aggressive uptrend. The price action is of course incredibly bullish. Moving over to what we can say is we're going to be taking a look at our weekly trends, talking about invalidations, the 4-year cycle expectations, how that is tracking along, and then the 12 to 18 bar theory, and then jumping into the short term. So, as we've mentioned for many weeks now, and as we know, we have been saying that we are playing Bitcoin from an invalidation perspective. Simply what that means is bullish until the trend turns bearish. And it sounds obvious because everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm bullish until it turns bearish. But at what point does the trend turn bearish? At what point do we have the validations in place to suggest that the top is in for Bitcoin? And at what point is it likely the macro downward trajectory is in play? Historically, we have used a variety of indicators in the prior cycles. It used this back in 2017. We also used this back in 2021 to not only predict basically near the exact top. We sold at 64,000 last cycle and rode all the way down to 18,000. But of course, this was actually facilitating us to get the exact bottom as well. So we're going to show you both scenarios. Number one, we are watching the Ichimoku cloud and the Gaussian channel indicators. Very simply, on the weekly chart, when the price action drops below both of these levels, that is representative of strong enough exhaustion, which signifies not only the top has been in, but the price action will likely continue toward the downside. If we are looking at the Gaussian channel as an indicator, the breakdown of the upper band of the Gaussian channel after the price action has been above it is a sell signal. It is a signal that the buyers have lost strength. The breakdown of the midline is going to be a representation of a trend shift. In this instance, the trend shift happened at around 29,000. But if we look back in 2023, the breakout, or should I say the end of the downtrend, occurred at around 22,000. So we have different points of validation depending on where we break on the Gaussian channel, but generally a break of the upper range after being above it is a strong sell signal on the weekly chart, and has been persistent across all cycles historically for Bitcoin. Now, when we put that on top of the Ichimoku cloud leading span A breakdown, what we have noticed is from that point onwards, we don't break back above the upper side of the Gaussian channel until we see breakdowns of the lower band of the Gaussian channel. So provided we break into the upper band and the leading span A, we are very likely going to break the lower band. And if we break the lower band, we enter this bear market phase or this capitulation phase where we'll see strong downtrends. So to bring back to our current statement, yes, we are very bullish on Bitcoin, and we will remain bullish on Bitcoin on the macro charts, while the leading span A and the Gaussian channel upper band remain intact. Let's discuss now a method you could use to predict the exact bottom for Bitcoin, and a method we'll be using yet again. This is a method I did not and I don't like to share because no one basically talks. I don't see anyone talk about this method at all, and it is literally so simple. And I know that sounds almost stupid, right? How can something so simple be so effective? But in this instance, it historically played out perfectly. And this is a method I used back in 2022 to buy the exact bottom at 16.5 to 18K. What we used is a Ichimoku cloud indicator looking at the baseline, which is the red line. Simply, we are waiting for the baseline to close a weekly pivot under the leading span B, which is the lower band of the Ichimoku cloud indicator, okay, the lower cloud, indicating the bottom. If we take a look in prior cycles, within a week period of the breakdown and close, we see a macro bottom for Bitcoin. So it doesn't predict the exact bottom, but it predicts it within a 2-week period. So if we're looking for the next bottom for Bitcoin, we'll be waiting for that to occur whenever that does occur. And you can see there's a very, very long time away until that is likely, as the baseline is so much higher than the clouds right now. So we're not at risk of going to a bear market yet. We're not at risk of anything like that, but the price action is still incredibly macro bullish, particularly with interest rate reductions coming on forward. Now that brings us to potential tops for Bitcoin. First and foremost, we have got to look at our indicator over here on the bottom side, and this is going to be our Vortex trend tracker indicator. This is on the weekly chart. As we can see, the Vortex trend tracker indicator has more or less predicted macro pivot points for Bitcoin, not necessarily always the tops for Bitcoin. You can see it predicted this macro top here, this macro top here. It predicted the top in 2021 in March, that false top, but it predicts points where we generally see macro pivots. Now, if we take a look at this, we can see these retests of the Vortex trend indicator have aligned up with pretty significant points on the charts. I mean, 2 of these scenarios basically getting the exact tops, one of them not really occurring. That was in 2013 though. And as we know, the Vortex trend hadn't really established its trend up until that second retest, confirming it on that third retest. And again, we have a 4th point over here, which when retested resulted in a multi-month downward correction for Bitcoin, which was our descending channel. It was a bullish consolidation, but it was a downward consolidation nevertheless of around 25 to 30%. So when we retest the Vortex trend indicator, what it suggests, and particularly when we see downward moves after retesting, it is suggestive that the strength of the trend is diminishing. And when we see diminishing strength on a macro chart, it is usually preceding macro continuations downward. Now, whether these macro continuations downward lead to bear markets or not, that's an entirely different question. But what we have seen historically is we have seen corrections of at least 30% generally when we do retest this Vortex trend. So therefore, the next retest of the Vortex trend could be the retest where the top for Bitcoin is in. Let's take a look at the 4-year cycle. If we look at the 4-year cycle, we can see a very, very interesting fact. And we talked about this a lot last year and a lot the year before. Not so much this year because we've talked about it so much on this channel historically, but if we do a date range analysis from the exact bottom, we're talking about the week of the bottom, the day of the bottom actually, the day of the bottom for Bitcoin, to the day of the top. So we're taking bottoms to tops, okay? The distance between in terms of date and time. We can see in the first and second cycle here, we had exactly 1,064 days, right? It was exactly 1,064 days between bottoms and tops of the prior cycles. Not even like 1,063 or 1,065, 1,064 on the dot. So, assuming that trend could potentially continue, and there's no way to invalidate that trend. The only way to invalidate that trend would be for us to enter a bear market prior to the date of October 6th. The reason why is October 6th, 2025 is 1,064 days from the bottom to the top. Now, will this play out? it is almost impossible to say for sure. It is almost impossible to invalidate it right now either. We have to be aware of it as a possibility. Now, I do have a theory which is going to be contradictory to this in some part, but not entirely. So let's talk about that first and foremost. The 12 to 18 bar theory suggests a potential top for Bitcoin between March to April 2025. However, the 4-year cycle suggests a top in October 2026. So that could mean that in March to April 2025, we see a local top for Bitcoin. We see a rally into March to April 2025, maybe $120,000, before we then see a correction. It does not enter us into an official bear market, but it is a correction, and then we see the price action move back upwards until the end of the year, which is October 6, 2025. That is a theory that I'm starting to theorize and starting to plan for. It's hard to validate that, of course. It is just a theory, but it's something I'm beginning to become more open to and aware of, which I might introduce into my strategy for my long-term investments at some point. As for the 12 to 18 bar theory, we're simply taking the longest dates between key pivots on the monthly chart. These pivots being the breakouts of these macro horizontal resistances, the bear market resistance, and the prior all-time high and prior cycles. We take the largest of the two numbers, we apply that to our current cycle, again the bear market resistance and the prior all-time high. We give a date range trend of 18 to 12 bars from those key points, which is March to April 2025 for a potential top. So for Bitcoin, what I'm expecting, and as I've already shown you on this chart, which is a fractal of the 2023 correction, which you can see, and I really want to stress this. This is literally playing out perfectly. It is actually insane how. And I freaking hate fractals. I'm not gonna lie. I really despise fractals. I'm trying to find that chart over here. Here it is. I hope you can see it. This is 2023, okay? We can see we had this horizontal resistance, we shot upwards, we had this flush correction down, a slow grind upwards, and then we saw one more move upwards until into the end of the year before a correction, only for us to continue higher. And I've talked about a potential correction for Christmas for a very, very long time now, and I think we might see something very similar to this fractal, which is we see this build upwards, maybe to around just shy of 110,000 before we see a bleed off for Bitcoin and a correction to the end of the year for Christmas, only for then to continue back upwards into 120,000 at some point. That is a theory that I am very much open to, and in fact, it is playing out almost identically to this fractal. It's crazy that I've never seen anyone else talk about this fractal yet. So, you know, this is very, very interesting stuff, and I don't want to put too much weight on the fractal, but it's hard not to put too much weight on the fractal when it is literally playing out day by day, absolutely identically to what we have seen in the past. So, you know, take that with what you want to take it with a grain of salt, take it legitimately, whatever you want. The reality is Bitcoin has established a support resistance flip above its prior level of resistance, and we are expecting continuations higher, which would also line up with the fractal. So the fractal is just a piece of confluence, but what the charts are suggesting, we were able to establish this 99K as a base of support over the course of the last 2 days, and we are now seeing price action push upwards, and we are expecting a push into a brand new high for Bitcoin. Now, provided the levels I'm about to tell you hold, the charts will remain bullish. So, provided we're able to sustain above $86,000 as a minimum, the price action is going to be bullish on a macro, and we will see the price action continue, I expect, to 121,000 at some point, maybe in 2025. That is what I'm expecting for Bitcoin, provided 86,000 holds. So, provided 86,000 holds, 121, 122,000, 123,000 is what we're expecting, provided 86 holds. Now, if we drop below 86,000, that is when I'm going to be concerned, as we will see a daily RSI breakdown. Again, the daily RSI is the uptrend on that RSI trend line you can see over here, which will be broken down as a consequence of a loss of around 91 to 86. So a loss of those levels, I will be concerned that we will see a steeper correction for Bitcoin. However, that is not very likely, and it is particularly not likely while we remain above 86,000. So no reason to be bearish on Bitcoin. I'm expecting the prices to go higher, but I do expect money to continue to favorably move into altcoins as Bitcoin dominance is pushing even lower. We can see Bitcoin dominance here has actually dropped below the 50 EMA for the first time since When was the last time we dropped below the 50 MA? Well, hell, we had this fake out move over here, which we can invalidate. So the last time we saw that was back in January 2021. I don't know if you guys remember January 2021, but let's show you on the total chart. January 2021, well, we'll look at that, guys. Right over here. Perfect freaking timing. Everything is lining up fantastically for an altcoin season. And as we mentioned, we told you guys the altcoin season was starting on the 13th of November. We told you on that day, or the 23rd of November. Can't remember. Anyway, the fact is, the altcoin market cap is up $200 billion since we told you altcoin season was started, which is a freaking massive amount of money to flow into the altcoin market in a very short period of time. And by the looks of things, we are going to see even more money flow into altcoins as Bitcoin dominance continues to drop, the market expected to continue higher, and the total 3 is looking very, very healthy for altcoin season, as we had 3 of the 3 validations we have looked for in prior cycles for that to occur. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. Catch you guys in the next video. See you then.